Okay, well, welcome back, everyone. And I've got the great pleasure and honor, really, to finish off this Congress. It's been an amazing experience. I've really enjoyed being part of it. It's been inspirational, and I've really seen a thread. I'm sure you've seen that thread going right through these 3 days, which is how important our place is as shiatsu therapists within our communities, taking us forward. And I'd like to share with you some of my experiences that I've had with some of my teachers. You've met many of my colleagues that have been on an amazing journey with me. We've all been on a journey for many decades. As Gallup said right at the beginning, we are the dinosaurs. That was a funny description. Yeah, she said, we're the dinosaurs of shiatsu. Let's hope we're not going to die out anytime soon yet, though. Okay, so my theme is the spiritual dimension, and we're going to keep it as practical as possible. I am on my own, notice, but do you know what? I don't feel lonely at all. No, because I know that you're all with me here for this last session. So here we go. Right, so we're going to do some warm-ups, and we're going to discuss why the spiritual dimension is important. We're going to tuning into our levels exercise. I'd like to share that with you. And then I'm going to do a little bit of theory, exploring the history of Post-Masunaga Shiatsu, do some more exercises, and then we're going to explore how we can actually integrate vibrational levels in our diagnosis and treatment. And then look forward to the future of Shiatsu. And I've got a few models just to kind of place Shiatsu along with other modalities in the future, for the future moving forwards. Okay, so that's what we've got in store. And I think actually we've been doing quite a lot of sitting down. We've done quite a few exercises. So let's just do a little bit of a warm-up, just a 2-minute warm-up. I'm just going to go to the back of my treatment room. This is my treatment room where I work. I'm doing shiatsu. And why don't we just get in our connection with heaven and earth. So we're just going to stand up, or you can do it sitting. We're just going to feel our feet on the floor, just like we did with Carola's exercise. We're going to scan through our bodies. And why don't we just do a little bit of shaking? So tune into anywhere in your body that you feel you need to release. Pick an area, and we're just going to start just shaking that area a little bit. Integrate it with the breath. And just get that shaking right through your whole body. Okay, right down to your feet. Let's do a few out breaths. Okay, and then we're just going to come to a close. Just let it slowly die down. And feel that connection between the top of your head and your feet going down into the center of the earth. And let's just spend a moment, just take a few breaths. To bring ourselves back into our bodies. Okay, very good. That's better, isn't it? Okay, so let's go back to the presentation. And we'll move on. Okay, so what exactly is working on the spiritual dimension? Well, for me, it's an actual specific technique that we can use, something that's practical that we can use in our shiatsu that allows us to actually expand our awareness and our actual diagnostic and treatment skills onto that level. Why is it important? Well, this is just echoing themes that have come out in many of the presentations. We've got huge challenges moving forwards now as a human family on this planet, as everyone is aware now. And it's very interesting to think back now to the way that Pauline Sasaki, our teacher of many of us in this presentation and this Congress, Pauline was always looking for that change. She said, yeah, the change is coming. There's going to be a big shift globally. And we can see that happening really strongly now. I mean, research has shown that most days for ill health are actually because of mental health issues. People are dissatisfied with their life. They're depressed. They've lost that spiritual spark that we all need for our fundamental health. We've also got a big rise in materialism and global capitalism, which has brought many benefits, but at the same time has meant we've been approaching for many years a climate emergency. And many people have shown, including our very own David Attenborough. I'd just like to echo a shout out here for the BBC. Carol has mentioned that, and so did Rita. The BBC just brought out a documentary called Extinction. I know it sounds a little bit of a depressing title, but I really recommend you check that documentary out on the BBC if you can. It's David Attenborough, absolutely mainstream, spelling it out. COVID-19 is a warning from the planet that we need to change. And if we don't, we're just going to get more problems moving closer into a climate emergency. For me, this is a very interesting thing because I've had basically 3 kind of careers. I studied here in Norwich in the late 70s. Yes, that's how much of a dinosaur I really am, by the way, Galu. Yeah, I studied environmental sciences, and that was my first interest. I then went into the natural health movement, natural food movement, and I worked at Infinity Foods in Brighton, and I worked actually at Rainbow Whole Foods in this city here. And then I went into Shiatsu. And if you think back to the early days of the 80s and even the 70s, late 70s, the body work, the healing, natural healing movement, the environmental movement, and the natural food movement were all one thing. In Brighton, for example, the Natural Health Centre was built by Infinity Foods Cooperative. And that's very strong links, which I think we've kind of forgotten in the 90s, maybe a little bit. And we really need to bring those things back. And all those things together are demanding that we look at our relationships to ourselves. Rita really spelt that out with all her amazing haptic research. And of course, we need to change our relationship to the planet. I also want to mention that Dan as well, being a medical doctor, and he's very insightful, and he saw through a lot of what's happening and linked up the political with health. And he said, you can't separate the two. And I totally agree with him on that. So there's a massive desire for change, but there's also a massive area of hope. And if you look at Shiatsu, the wider aspect of Shiatsu, and I know that all of us have done Qigong, we've done yoga, meditation, mindfulness. You look at all those huge movements that are becoming so strong now, and you can see them as a reaction to that deep need that we have on the planet to reconnect with ourselves and to reconnect with the planet that we live on. The great thing about Shiatsu is that the spiritual dimension is built in through the concept of ki. And I'll go into more detail about that later. But ki itself is that link between the material and the non-material aspects of the being. There are reasons why we've lost sight of that as a planet. And I'm just going to touch on those later when we do a bit of the theory. But I think the important thing, and many presenters have said this, I think, was it Carol that said this, or I think it was Rita said, no, Rita was saying, we are sparks of light in our community that need to grow to illuminate the community. And I really believe that. We have a responsibility as Shiatsu practitioners to take our knowledge out there and to help the transition that has to happen. Okay, I've got a couple of polls for you. Poll 1, I just wanted to, just very interested to know, which is your main Shiatsu style? So I assume most people are Zen Shiatsu style, but let's find out. I might be wrong. So what was your main Shiatsu style? Mainly Namakoshi, mainly Zen Shiatsu or Post-Masunaga Shiatsu, maybe TCM-based Shiatsu, 5 elements or other? Okay, so probably no big surprise there, but welcome to other Shiatsu styles. We've obviously got to do more work attracting the Namakoshi community into new energy work. I can see that. But most of it, 80% roughly, are Zen Shiatsu or post-Masunaga Shiatsu styles. So that's the first thing I wanted to ask you. And the second thing, so I know where to pitch the next hour's session, is yes, do you have a specific technique that you could explain to someone, not just, oh, I just kind of feel it, but an actual specific technique to tune into the spiritual level? Okay, so do you actually have a specific technique? So let's have a look. An actual specific technique. Not sure. I love the not sures. That's really good. You might have a specific technique, but they're not sure. Okay, right. Well, nearly half of you do. Okay, so that's really interesting. We're going to find out what you do later on. And the reason for that is because there's many ways of doing it. I'd just be interested to know what method you actually use. Okay, so the first exercise I'd like to do with you, if you want to go and run and get a piece of paper and a pen, because you're going to need that. The first step to any type of energy work is finding out about ourselves. And again, that echoes many of the presentations. I'm thinking of maybe Alice here with her Seiki development exercises. Gallett's very first presentation was all about looking after ourselves and tuning into ourselves. Many of the presentations have echoed that. So again, with the vibrational levels work or the spiritual dimension work, we really want to just investigate ourselves, don't we? Okay, so I'm going to talk you through a meditation. You just need to get a piece of paper and draw 4 boxes on it. I'm just going to do a cross like this so that I've got 4 boxes. Okay, and you want to mark them up. I just use a P for physical, E for emotional, M for mental level, thought level, and S for the spiritual level. Okay, that's all you need. Okay, and we're going to I'll just close the slide off so you can be with me in my room here. This is my Shiatsu room where I work, treating clients. Okay, so let's just tune in to our key field on all of those 4 levels. And what we're going to do is draw a picture of our 4 levels of awareness in our energy field. Okay, so you want to try it? So let's just close our eyes first of all. We're going to close our eyes, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to tune into the physical level. So what I'd like you to do is scan through your body and just notice how your bones, your muscles, connective tissue, blood flow, all the physical aspects, the fluids in your body, just get in touch with those. Okay, now if you had to do a drawing of your physical body, what would it look like? Okay, can you imagine what you draw? Okay, once you've done that, I'd like you to get hold of your piece of paper, and I'm going to draw myself, my physical body here on there. So just take a moment to just draw it. And if you're watching this as a recording later on, I would recommend you do this exercise along with us. Okay, got it? If you've forgotten anything, just close your eyes and go back to that bit, and we can draw it. Okay, very good. Okay, so we've got the physical level. So now we're going to shift up. So we close our eyes again. And we're going to shift up onto the emotional level. So now I'd like you to tune into your energy on an emotional level. Okay, and just see if you feel different when you tune in on that level. Again, scanning through our body and the area around our body. Very good. Okay, so now if you had to draw that emotional body as a picture, or an image, what would it look like? Okay, and when you're ready, you've got the image in your mind, you can open up your eyes and we'll draw it on the second box here, okay? There's no rules at all about how you draw it, by the way. Okay, got it? Excellent. Okay, so now we're going to shift up onto the thought or the mental level, a bit more abstract, isn't it? Okay, this reminds me a little bit of some of the other presentations. So let's go into that level and see what we get. And close our eyes again, relaxing. And now tune into your thought body, your mind, or your mental level. Now, what is that like? Okay, and if you can turn that into an image, or it could be words, when you're ready, open your eyes and just ask yourself, what was it like? And we're going to draw that in the third box. Okay, you can put some words in if you like. There's no rules at all on how you draw it. It's just an experience that you're going to draw there. Okay, cool. Right, very good. Excellent. So now we're going to go up one more into the spiritual level, and we'll see what kind of experience we have with that. So we're going to close our eyes, relax, and now tuning into your spiritual body, whatever that means for you. Okay, now what is that like? And if you had to draw it, what would it be? What would it look like? Got it? Okay. And so now we're going to take a moment to just draw that experience in fourth box. Okay. Okay, very good. Okay, I'm just going to give you a bit of a peek of my drawings. There we are. So you can see pretty different experiences on each level. Now, of course, all of those things combine to make us make our total self. But from a technique point of view, as we'll find out later, it can be sometimes useful to be able to differentiate between those different levels. Okay, so hope you enjoyed that. If you want to just share in the chat, I'm sure the chat monitors will be very interested to hear. I have a quick look at myself. Yeah. Yeah, you can always put in the chat any particular experiences you had and share them with the group. Okay, here's a little bit of background about how this work evolved. And I know that many different styles of Shiatsu are moving in the same direction, and that's again part of the same planetary shift that's reflected in our work. My particular thread is through Post-Masunaga Shiatsu with Pauline Sasaki. I was very lucky to write to her. It's a long story, I'll cut it short. Basically, I was searching in the early 80s for the best Shiatsu teacher I could find, and I asked the advice of Harriet Geddes, or Devlin as she was at the time, who was the most experienced traveling person in English. She traveled to America and Japan. She said, you should go and search out Pauline Sasaki. She used to teach for Ohashi, but she's now in Connecticut. I wrote to her, and in 1982 or 3, and she wrote back this long email letter. No, not email. What's it called? Airmail letter. Yeah, you know, remember those thin paper things that we used to write on? Anyway, she then came and taught in the UK. That's where I met Carola and Paul and Nicola and all the other wonderful shiatsu people in the UK. And then I went over in 1986 and was apprenticed by her. And this is her picture of her in her little office she had in her bedroom. And then what we did was we traveled together and we worked together after that apprenticeship for 20 years. And we worked pretty much continually on trying to figure out how to complete the Zen Shiatsu system. And we did a reasonable job, I think. I mean, it's a pretty coherent development, and it parallels a lot of other teachers who've done a similar thing. Okay. The interesting thing about Pauline, as Alice and many other you have mentioned in this Congress, is that she was influenced by Masunaga. She translated the book Zen Shiatsu, and she was assisted Masunaga in New York in the 70s when there were some very, very famous, massive workshops. She also graduated with Masunaga in Japan. She did the American-Japanese thing, which was really interesting. But she also, as Diego, I think, mentioned, was after using Zen Shiatsu for a long time as a practicing it, she started to have experiences of the energy field that she couldn't really understand within the Zen Shiatsu framework at the time. So what she did was she sought out another teacher for herself, and she studied, in fact, she was apprenticed in Paris by Kishi. And Kishi took a very different approach to Masunaga in that he basically wasn't so concerned with meridians. He was more concerned with the essence of the energy field. And so what Pauline did through her life, one of the main things she did was she basically combined the global energy awareness of Kishi with the Zen Shiatsu system. And she kind of built the two things together because she loved to touch people. There we are. We found out how important that was. She loved touching, and she loved the touch of Shiatsu, but she wanted to have that global energy awareness that Kishi demonstrated in his own practice. Okay, so just to review, you're all Zen Shiatsu people, so I'll skip over this pretty quickly. Masunaga's main contribution was the two-handed technique, using the hara as a center, bringing back the traditional techniques, focused on the channels and extended those, as you know, with the extended meridians, the meridians down the arms and legs. And one of his big contributions was the Kyojitsu reaction, feeling that feeling of oneness, that echo of life in the body. If you look in Zen Shiatsu, though, he was mainly focused on physical and psychological levels. Okay, and interestingly enough, towards the end of his life, he said that he regretted he didn't spend more time treating the soul. So that leaves space in the development of Zen Shiatsu for more development on the spiritual level. Now, I know that Masunaga was aware of the spiritual level, which I'll explain a little bit later. Now, Kishi was a very interesting teacher because he was basically Masunaga's first disciple. Masunaga basically thought Kishi would take on the whole Zen Shiatsu thing, but in a way, Kishi kind of broke with Masunaga because he had his own spiritual development, and he developed much more of a non-meridian based focus, working mainly with field techniques. And Alice basically demonstrated that in her presentation, if you want to see that. When I met him, he was mainly doing etheric work, but he also did body work. And he very kindly gave me a treatment in Rome a few years ago at the Rome Congress before he died. And that was very much body work. But he had that very particular special touch, which came from his own spiritual development. So Pauline Sasaki's mission really was to take the body weight aspect of Shiatsu and to bring in the field perception. And she did that with the most simple technique possible. And that's, I think, the brilliance. All brilliant things are so simple, aren't they? Two-handed technique, moving from the hara. And basically what she did was she used the spine as the center, which she got from the Alexander technique, by the way, and obviously it's there in Tai Chi and Qigong. And she introduced us to this idea of contraction and expansion. The idea being is that if you want to go onto the higher levels, like the mental and the spiritual level, you require a more expanded technique. And if you use more contraction, that tends to bring you down to the 10,000 things, down into the more structural, physical aspects of the body. Okay? And she introduced the idea of vibrational frequency. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is I'd like to do a very simple exercise, and we're going to just experiment with what happens to our touch when we expand and contract. Are you ready for that? Okay, now you can do it on your own on a cushion. I'm going to do that because I'm on my own at the moment. But if you've got a partner or a cat or a dog or a friendly child or something, you might want to use them as your model, and then you can get some feedback. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift up my camera. Just bear with me for a second while I lift it up. And if I've got it right, I should be able to zero in on my mat. There we go. Okay, so here we are. This is my futon where I work most of the time. I'd just like to do a simple exercise. And I've already had a tutorial on this. If you were at the first presentation with Galit, I got a proper tutorial with her. Yeah, she was very strict. She's very strict, isn't she, Galit? Very, very strict. No, don't do that. Don't do that. That's it. Okay. And we were doing the crawling exercise. So I wanted to go back to that crawling exercise, and we're going to do some contraction expansion experiments. Okay. All you need to do is you just need a pillow, but we're going to experiment with what it feels like in our energy, but also imagine what's going to happen to our touch. Okay, you ready? Now, if you're only sitting in a chair, you haven't got a futon nearby, you can just work on your own legs and feet, legs, or you're on your own lap or anything. Okay, just try it. Okay, so try this first of all. We're just going to get into a crawl position. Right, I'm going to put my heels up. Thank you, Gallo. And we're going to bring our weight back. Okay. What I'd like you to do is, first of all, just contract one part of your body. Let's say shoulders or hips or knees, it can be anywhere, okay? And we're going to contract one area of body, and we're going to come forwards and see what it feels like, the pillow feels like underneath your hand, okay? All right, now let's try contracting more than one area. Let's contract two areas of the body, and as you bring your body weight forward, I want you to tighten those areas up, tighten them up, tighten them up, tighten them up, okay? See what that cushion feels like underneath your hand. Let's go for three areas. So I'm going to choose my hip, my neck, and my shoulder. And I go forwards. I'm going to contract. I'm going to contract, 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 contract. Okay. Now you notice that when you do that, I'm going to stop doing that now. You notice that your the contact with the pillow gets quite narrow, doesn't it? And it gets quite a kind of density to it. And the funny thing is, it doesn't matter whether you contract your hip or your ankles, you still get that feeling in your hand because the body energy works as a whole. So now I'm going to take you through the expansion exercise that Pauline taught us. And it's based on using the spine as the center, and it's also based on using various different aspects of the technique to increase the expansion. Okay, so let's try it. The first thing we want to do is get into a comfortable crawl position, okay? And we're going to go internally, and we're going to extend the spine, okay? Extend the spine. So I'm just imagining that my spine is extending out this way, and it's down, going through my sacrum. And that extension allows you to relax your hips and your shoulders, okay? Now look what happens. We're going to expand our rib cage horizontally and the pelvis, so we've got a nice feeling of extension and relaxation, okay? And what we do is we do the opposite of what naturally happens. When we bring our body weight forwards, we naturally brace and we naturally contract to balance off the feeling of the weight. And the genius of Pauline's technique is that we introduce, and I'll say this very slowly, we introduce the expansive phase as we bring the body weight in. Okay, so we create an expansive feeling as we connect deeper into the body. I'll do it in slow motion for you, and let's see if you can follow through with me. Okay, so we extend the spine. Okay. In our mind, we're extending the spine. As we bring the body weight forwards, we release the spine outwards, this way and this way. We open the joints and we create a feeling of expansion. As soon as you feel yourself tightening up, you should be getting out of there. You should be going out. So we only apply the weight during the expansive phase. Let's just do it another time. We'll do it one more time, and you'll feel the difference in the quality of the touch, even on a pillow. Okay, and if you've got a receiver, they will be able to give you feedback. Notice what the pillow feels like. Okay. Extend the spine, introduce the expansive phase, okay, and then come back as soon as you feel the contraction starting. Now, doesn't the pillow feel much wider and kind of flatter and more expanded? Let's just do it one more time. It feels softer, doesn't it? Okay, and that's because you're expanding your awareness and your energy awareness outwards as you're going into the technique. Okay? So simple and so brilliant. But what it enables us to do is something very, very special, which it enables us to use full body weight and still maintain a connection to the whole energetic field. And that's a massive thing, because you've probably noticed maybe in your own practice, or you may have noticed it with other therapists, is as they get more into energy awareness, they have a tendency to work lighter and lighter on the body. And the reason for that is because body weight itself has a contractive tendency. So if we want to stay in touch with the energy technique and with the energy field, if we don't have a technique that balances off the contractive aspect of the body weight, then we will naturally tend to work lighter. Okay, so I'll just get my slides back up. Okay. Very good. Okay, so I'm hoping on the chat you can give some feedback on that, and hopefully you felt a difference, and certainly if you had a receiver, I'm sure they felt the difference in that exercise. Okay, so here's some stuff here's some theory stuff. So body weight itself, as we just mentioned, has a contractive tendency, so we can balance that out by releasing our body weight. Physical tightening, physical release. Deep pressure has a contractive tendency, so the tendency is to work lighter. If we want to work deep, we have to balance it out. And this was another amazing thing I think about Pauline, is she never judged anything. She never said, oh, this is better than that, that's better than this, or this style is better than that style. She was just interested in whatever the style, whatever the action was of the style. And so she had nothing against working deep, working light, but what she did was she gave us a systematic way that we could balance any aspect of our technique off to get the desired effect that we wanted. Deep pressure, light pressure, focused intention. I just try this experiment. If you look directly at the camera and you focus it directly at your screen, just narrow your gaze down. Okay. Okay, and now relax your gaze and open up the peripheral vision. So you're almost looking behind you. Okay, can you feel that feeling of contraction, expansion, just using the intention? And that focused intention can be used another way to balance off the contraction. Fixed visual focus, peripheral vision. Movement from the hara, if you focus yourself down too condensed into the hara, as opposed to opening up the whole spine. The reason for that, I believe, is because the dantian and the chakras are connected to the spine, so that gives more of a wider touch. Okay. Now, once we've got our technique really free, we may want to drop the frequency down. We may want to get more physical, but we don't really want to do that with gross physical contraction, because that's going to be maybe uncomfortable for the client. And also it will narrow our perception and narrow our touch. So what we can do is we can focus on the occiput or focus on the sacrum. And because of the chakras and the dantians, that brings the frequency up and down. Okay. Now here's a controversial one. Pauline always felt, I think it was because she was from the East Coast, to be honest. You know, she's from the East Coast of America. You know how speedy they are compared to the Californians. If she'd been a Californian, she would have been much more kind of chilled out. But no, she was one for working fast. And the reason she did that was because, as you probably felt with that exercise, it's very difficult to maintain that expansive phase for a long period of time. Did you notice that when you went forwards, you got to a point and you went into contraction? Well, Pauline liked to work fast because she would go expand, 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 expand. She uses that constant renewal of the expansion to maintain connection with the field. Okay, so that's a little bit of theory. Okay, so yeah, Pauline used this kind of vibrational frequency work in her work, and she used the spine as a way of, and the alignment to keep open. In other words, to open her work onto different levels. And believe me, I mean, I know I've met quite a lot of practitioners who saw Pauline work and imagined that because it was so effortless for her and it looked like she was just doing this. But anyone who had a treatment from her will definitely agree with me that I think Pauline worked deeper, both physically and energetically, than any other therapist I've ever had work on me. Anyway, it was really, really deep. It just looked effortless. And because she was in that expansive phase, it wasn't uncomfortable. It was just really, whoa. Okay. Because that's the interesting thing. The more we put expansion into the touch, the more body weight we can bring in without causing any discomfort to the receiver. So simple, but so brilliant. Okay. So what happened to me, and this is one of my little stories, is that, and you may have heard it before, Pauline had this whole idea of keeping everything open. And I was teaching in Hamburg. Thank you, Wilfred, by the way. Big shout out for Wilfred. He was the first person to give me an international teaching gig. I think it was about 1987. And I taught in his school. And I was demonstrating visual diagnosis on different levels. And somebody in the class put their hand up and went, Cliff, yes. How do you know what level you're tuning into? You see? So I went, oh, don't worry about it. Just keep practicing. You know, it'll come to you one day. You'll know. Meanwhile, I was thinking, how on earth do we do that? And of course, I was very, very dissatisfied with the fact that I couldn't give any answer. And in fact, I had absolutely no idea. I probably would have answered no or not sure on the poll that I gave you earlier if you asked me that in 1987. In fact, I would definitely have answered no. I did not have a method to tune into different levels. So what I'd like to do now is I've tried quite a few of them, different ways of doing it. So this is an exercise that we're just going to think about for a minute, and then I'd like you to type them into the chat, okay? Which is, I just want you to think a bit. Now, obviously, some of you have already got a method, at least you said you had, okay? But if you haven't, or you're not sure, I'd just like you to spend a moment thinking about how could we develop a technique. Imagine you're in my position as a teacher and someone asked you that question and you had to think of a way or develop a technique of tuning in to different vibrational levels. What kind of system could you come up with? Okay, so let's just spend a moment thinking about that. I'm going to check out the chat because there's probably enough. I imagine there's probably people putting, right. Yeah, so just think about that. The different vibrational frequencies are physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual levels. Okay, we've got working with the chakras, address the spiritual level, simply address it. Okay, respiration, breathing, what level I wonder if that is. Praying, there we are, that's interesting. Music, qigong, open mind, reiki, oh, that's interesting, yeah. Mindset, okay, good. Mindset, sound resonance, distance with the eyes, light body activation, sure, breathing and focusing, listening, touch, tuning into yourself, scanning the ethereal body. Yeah, that's one I tried. Holding the hand, chakras, intuition. Yep. Okay, and asking questions. Yeah, a lot of it's to do with asking questions, isn't it? Listening, ting, yeah, that is ting. That refers to Nick Pole's thing. Yeah, listening like water. Okay, well, look, here's a few ideas that I've had given to me in the past, in previous workshops, and lots of them are in there. Lots of them are in there. I mean, some more as well. Oh, not Nick Pole. No, it was okay. Sorry. Taste and images. Right. Mindset, which is a very common one. Okay, so just like we tune into our own energy field, we can tune in just using mindset. Think the physical level, think the emotional level. And if we're with our client, if you know any techniques like body scanning or tuning into the field, we can use mindset to shift the vibrational level. Okay. You can use sounds as well. And I used the chakra sounds are a possibility. There's a bit too many of them though. There's 7 chakras and there's only 4 levels. So it's you don't need all of them. Colors was my biggest failure. I had a terrible failure with that. And anyone who was at the workshop in Kirby Fleeting Hall in about 1992 or something, I apologize for getting you to walk round and round in circles looking at colored bits of paper. Do you remember that? And the reason it didn't work was because Shiatsu people are so programmed with the elements. So if you show them a red color, they usually think of the fire element, and they usually think of the Shen, and so they usually think of the emotions, and so that was a disaster. Because the chakras go from the lower chakras are red and they go up to blue. So if you're a yoga or a chakra person and you see red, you probably think of the root chakra, don't you? Okay, so it all depends on your kind of programming. Okay, now in terms of the technique, the reason that the chakras, the dantians, the levels of the aura are useful is because, unlike the meridians, they separate the vibrational levels spatially. Okay, I'll say that again slowly. Okay, unlike the meridians, the chakras, the auric layers, okay, and the dantians separate the vibrational levels spatially in the body. Now, with the meridians and the organs, the meridians, you have all the vibrational levels there, but they're all kind of combined together in one 3-dimensional place. Whereas with the chakras, you've got low frequencies going up to high frequencies. And with the dantians, like Kara just shared with us, we've got the hara, the heart center, and the brow, which spatially connect them. Okay, and the auric layers are the same. The physical layer of the aura is here, and it goes out to the emotional, mental, and there's various different layers of the spiritual aura. Okay, so they're useful because they're spatially related models, and I've tried different combinations of all of them. I can see many of oh, I see, yes, okay, ting, people know about ting. Why, right, okay. Yeah, so I've tried many of them, and now I tend to just use mindset. I sometimes use sounds, internal sounds. I don't usually go, oh, when I'm working on my clients, can make them jump. I use internal sounds sometimes, mindset. I'm going to just pause there for a minute, because I'm going to put another exercise in, something I was playing around with at lunchtime. I thought, I wonder if I can do this with your groups. I'm going to try it. We're just going to take a few minutes doing this. What I'm going to get you to do is I'm going to get you to palpate your own hara diagnostic area of the heart, which I'll show you where that is if you don't know where it is. Feel your rib cage. It's just here. This area links directly with the heart. okay? And what I'm going to get you to do, you can lie down if you want to, I'm going to do it sitting up, okay, is I'm going to get you to palpate it on 4 levels. And I'd like you to let me know if it felt exactly the same on each level when you palpated it, both to your touch and also how it felt, your felt sense, as it were, your sensation inside. Do you want to try it? Okay. So let's close our eyes and let's try this. Okay, rub your hands together. Make sure you know where your heart diagnostic area is. All right. Good. Okay, ready? Okay, so follow me. Just let me know, right, at the end, or let everyone know at the end whether they felt different or not. So first of all, let's just close our eyes, feel the heart diagnostic area, and we're going to tune in to that area on the physical level. Okay, I just want you to palpate that. Okay, remember that feeling. Okay, clear your hands. Okay. Remember the feeling of that. Now we're going to palpate this on the emotional level. So get your hand ready. We're going to relax. And now palpate the heart area on the emotional level. Okay, just take a moment to feel it. Okay, and then come away. Did it feel the same? Shake out our hands. Now we're going to try the mental level. You know that the heart is related to the quality of consciousness. So we're going to close our eyes, tune in onto the mental level, find that diagnostic area again, and palpate with the same depth and see if it feels different. Okay, very good. Relax your hands. And now we're going to go up to the 4th level. We're going to palpate it on the spiritual level, which is the Shen level, okay, which is to do with your cosmic awareness. Let's see what it feels like on that level. So find the area, relax, and gently, well, with exactly the same pressure, I just want you to press in and palpate on the spiritual level. Okay, now just relax and think back to those 4 experiences. Okay, and I'd like you to ask yourself this question: did they all feel the same? Okay, and the options are yes, no, and there's no, not sure. Okay, I just want you to say yes or no. Okay, did all of those 4 levels feel the same? Okay, now most of you are finding 99%, 93% of you are finding that actually no, they felt different because you picked up different information. Okay, now what can happen sometimes is you can have a very coherent feeling all the way through the levels, and you can get a very similar feeling all the way through. Okay, that does happen, but most often, especially if there's something going on in that meridian, you're going to feel an imbalance within the vibrational levels. And that reminds me of a really interesting experience I had with Patrizia Stefanini, actually, funnily enough, right in this room here. She came to do some work with me way back in the 90s. And what we discovered by doing vibrational frequency testing was something very interesting, which is what happens with Masunaga technique is when you get Kyoan Jitsu meridians going out of balance, it's not just a Kyoan Jitsu thing that's going on. You're also getting internal incoherence within the vibrational frequencies. So we think about Kyoan Jitsu full and empty, but what's really going on if you have techniques like we've just explored is you'll discover that there's actually an incoherence or disharmony as the Kyoan Jitsu are created. And so what we discovered was not only did they come back down to balance like this, but they also get more into harmony. And I really remember that experience we had. And something you can really explore. one of the great things about this technique, what will happen when you work this way, or if you're not already doing so, and I can see most of you are, is that you'll find that your range and your perception will be greatly increased. Okay, lots and lots of fun. No, never a dull moment with Shiatsu, let's face it. Okay, so now just spend a moment looking at the slides. Why is it important with Shiatsu technique? Well, you probably don't need me to say much about this, but this is one of the things that Pauline always emphasized, which is that a structure of a healing system should be consistent in terms of its philosophy, the theory, the treatment, and the diagnosis. Okay, now the thing is, we already know from TCM theory that every organ and every meridian has a Shen level, it has a spiritual level, and I'm sure you must have been taught this at school. Interestingly enough, I know that Masunaga was aware of them because Pauline taught me a series of information about the meridians, and I only found out later when I came back to the UK and I studied with, well, I was teaching with Carola and Paul and Nicola. We were working in the Shiatsu College, we co-taught, and I know what that is. That stuff that Masunaga taught Pauline was the Shen of the organs. So we know that Masunaga was aware of them. It's just he didn't integrate them completely in his lifetime. So for me, it seems logical that we have a diagnosis system and a treatment system that matches the theory. In other words, we need a specific technique that allows us to treat and diagnose on all four levels. That's the motivation. Now, I'm sure you probably do know the spiritual qualities of the organs. I put them in here, and they'll be available, obviously, as a handout at the end, if I remember to put them up, load them up. Remind me, right? Yeah, we have the Z, the Hun, the Shen, the Yi, and the Po. And if you don't know them, now it's time to find out. Okay, you want to definitely get Giovanni's book or another book that you like and have a look. Okay, so now I'd like to just talk for a few minutes before we finish about the different ages of development of medicine. And I've based this on Dean Radin's book, Entangled Minds. If you want to read his book, it's very interesting. Okay, and it's also partly from my own experience of going to the Wellcome Institute, by the way. That's the same institute that Carola got her wood blocks from when I went to the Science Museum many years ago. And I went to the top floor of the Science Museum and noticed that the big exhibition there of all the world medicines, the only medicine in the history of the entire world that doesn't take into the spirit, doesn't take in the spiritual dimension into the healing process is Western scientific medicine. Okay, and that's going to change. And if we explore this, we'll see why. Okay, so in the pre-industrial age, in the magical age, okay, spiritual development and healing were considered to be one thing. Okay, it was all part of the same thing. In the magical age, the spiritual health connected to physical health was self-evident. And so healing was both spiritual and physical healing. And that's the basis of all traditional systems of medicine. And there's reasons why we've lost that. Okay. When we move into the classical industrial age, we have the Newtonian view of the universe, which is basically a clockwork universe. The observer is placed outside of that clockwork universe and objectifies it. That puts the emphasis on the material, and it becomes a reductionist and materialist system. And what happened was that nature itself, but also healing, was seen through that lens. So the body is seen as a mechanism that can be fixed by drugs, by surgery, or whatever. And that has some certain big advantages. I mean, look, modern medicine is absolutely incredible with heart transplants and with other interventions. It can be absolutely amazing. But there's a very big danger there, as you know, that we're going to lose something very, very important with that mindset. Okay, another big thing in behaviorism was behaviorism. That was part of that classical industrial age. Again, looking at the mind as a machine, part of a machine. Skinner was one of the classic behaviorists. Spiritual consciousness in behaviorism is completely unexplained. In fact, consciousness itself is unexplainable because it's just seen as a mechanism. The best we can say about it is it's some kind of subjective experience in the brain, and it's always consciousness itself is downplayed from that mechanical model. Then we move into the modern information age, and this is really where we are at the moment. Okay, we've got quantum effects, we've got wave particle duality. If you look at Patrizia's teacher, Emilio Del Giudice, makes some very interesting parallels between coherence, quantum effects, and consciousness. Very, very worth looking out for. Okay, and once we get consciousness built into the universe through the wave particle duality and those things, consciousness comes back in. We haven't got the universe as a mechanism outside ourselves anymore. Suddenly, spiritual experience is possible structurally in the universe. In other words, our consciousness creates, at a very fundamental level, creates our experience, but kind of creates the actual universe around us at a fundamental level. Okay, now the thing is, that's not the end of it either, because what we're on the verge of now, and Pauline saw this coming 10, 20 years ago, is that we're actually moving into an integral age. Now, there are powerful forces out there that want to push us back. They want to tell us that we're part of the magical age. They want to tell us that we're all kind of crazy and it's all to do with voodoo and spiritual stuff and it's all just non-scientific stuff like that. There are people that want to do that. There are people who want to push us back into the classical industrial age and prove that what we're doing is not right. It's not possible, that consciousness is, somehow not a relevant construct. Okay, and those forces are very powerful, which is why we need the Shiatsu Research Network. Guys are awesome. Okay, and look at all the research that Rita had there. We need all that research. We need to understand science because we're moving into an integral age where we're taking the best of those traditional things, the self-evidence of the soul, the total obviousness that the spiritual connection is important in health. So we're moving into the integral age, and I believe that the energy workers like us are the vanguard. We are the vanguard of that movement, and we're a very important part of that. Even Western medicine accepts through research. In fact, there are 1,600 scientific studies that show that spiritual or religious participation affect health outcomes. I mean, you don't really need much more evidence than that it's important. Okay, so we've done that exercise. We tuned into the levels on the Hara. I hope that we did that. We already did that. We did the tuning into the heart area on 4 different levels. So I hope you enjoyed that. So I'm just going to finish up now. I've literally got 2 minutes to finish up. I'm just hoping there are not too many questions. Nope, there aren't. That's good. Okay. So this is the future. We're moving into the integral age. We're combining the best of the previous ages. They're combining together and they are giving us what we need, which is that spiritual connection with ourselves and others, as Rita has shown so vividly in her presentation. But also, the other thing is it gives us the connection with the planet. We've seen it in so many of the Qigong exercises that Carol did with us and all the lots of other exercises that we did, Diego. They are designed to reset our relationship with ourselves and with our planet. And there's never been a greater need for that. Okay, so Shiatsu's place is central, I think. We've already seen from Rita how important touch is and the massive amount of research that's coming out backing us up on that. Okay, the great thing I think about Shiatsu is it's reflexive. We have to work on ourselves. We have to, it's a requirement. Another cool thing about Shiatsu is we actually have totally renewable electricity, and the Shiatsu Center here is totally low carbon. In fact, it's completely zero carbon. We have zero carbon. And also Shiatsu is so low energy. It's a highly effective, we don't have a big chemical plant churning out masses of drugs or anything like that. We have very low carbon it's the medicine of the future. No harmful chemicals and minimal side effects, which is what we need. Okay, here's a picture of me and Pauline in Italy, actually. I think it's at the La Chiara. Look quite a bit younger then. Yeah, that was part of the 20 years that we worked together. We've tuned into the expansion and contraction. We've tuned into our own levels, Hara on different levels, and we've linked the spiritual dimension to our challenges on Earth, which I think is probably a good way to finish the ISCO. Okay, so I'm just going to spend, that's the end of my presentation. I'm just going to spend literally 2 minutes just saying a few thanks. Okay, first of all, thank you for being part of it. It would be nothing without your participation. Really has been amazing having you aboard. NewEnergyWork.com is now working completely free of charge. Ever since COVID, you may know that we actually decided to put all our paid content out free of charge to the world Shiatsu community, and we've now got well over 2,000 people logged in to New Energy Work. And if you know any other Shiatsu practitioners that are having difficulties, okay, and they need support, then the whole of New Energy Work, all the online resources and everything are all free of charge now. Okay, and I also want to say thank you, massive thank you to the team. I've had such a lovely 3 days, and the reason I've enjoyed it so much is because there are 4 other people who have been doing all the hard work. Shakura's next door. She's been literally on the phone, texting all the presenters, lining up, sorting out their audio, sorting out the connection all weekend. And Dinah, Kat and Basti have been working away in the background, sharing stuff, checking the chat. It's been absolutely awesome. Okay, and the other thing, the final thing that I want to do is I'm going to share my handout in a moment. If I can find it. Oh yes, I've got it here. Okay, I'm going to share it now if you want my presentation. Yeah, the other thing I wanted to just say a massive thank you is you might be wondering, like, how is it possible? Because these platforms that we use, Demio, we upgraded it to 1,000 participants, and we've got the online resources. We've got over 2,000 people on that now, and our costs are high. I mean, it costs us thousands and thousands of euros to be able to put all this amazing stuff on. And the answer is very simple, because we have no fixed income. We have to be completely humble, and we just ask the worldwide Shiatsu community to support us. And so far, we've kept the lights on, okay? And you know who you are. You're the donors that have made this possible. You have made this actually possible. And if you would like to become, if you're not already a donor and you'd like to be one of those amazing people that help us create connections around the world, then please, we invite you to just, if you can, contribute anything towards the project. And if you're having a lot of difficulties, I know a lot of us in the team are like that. We're struggling a bit with getting clients back in. We're working online, and it's not a good time for you. That is absolutely fine too. And there'll be a time when we can all help each other in the best way that we can. Okay, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful experience. I've learned so much over the last 3 days. I just want to thank all the presenters for giving their time. And please remember that this is only the start. All these resources are going to go online. We're creating an online course on newenergywork.com. We're going to have quizzes. The reason for that is to check that you know that you've looked at the material, so that we can give you a CPD or CE, whatever you want to call it, continuing ed credits for all of the presentations. And also we're going to have forums so you can chat to other people after the event, after the live event, ask more questions. We're trying to get some of the presenters to come onto the forum too, okay? And as part of that process, our work is only just beginning, because we're now going to take all of the recordings, edit them. That's Kat's job, by the way, and create the quizzes and edit them. That's Dinah's job and Basti's, and organize the whole online recorded sessions for you. And we've got 3 more Tuesdays coming up. If you go to the New Energy Work, or you go through into International Shiatsu Congress online website, you'll be able to sign up for those Tuesdays. And please join us. We're going to be showing videos of the highlights of each of the days, and we're going to roll out each of the days over the next 3 weeks. So next Tuesday, we're going to present Friday's webinar, and then Saturday after that, or the Tuesday after that, we'll do Saturday, and the Tuesday after that, we'll do this one, the Sunday. You see what I mean? So we're spreading them out. So yeah, hope to see you on the Tuesday webinars. And then we've got lots of plans for the autumn, including a quantum shiatsu course with Gabriella Polly, and the return of the observed treatment sessions. So we've got tons and tons of exciting projects for the autumn. So see you again soon, and thank you so much for spending some of your weekend with us all here at ISCO 2020. Thank you.